don't do it alone. Find a coach, find a mentor. I'm not talking about, your brother or your mum or your dad who has a business. Find someone who has been successful in that type of business. For example, yourself, law practicing. So if I was to set up a business in law, I would come to you. I'll come and speak to you. If I want to, set up, get my business to 7 figures, I would speak to you because you've been there, you've done that. So it's find someone who can, mentor you, who has done it, not someone who would just be like, oh yeah, you should do this. Well, okay, well, have you succeeded? Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of the Inventive Journey, and I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several businesses to 7- and 8-figure companies, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. And today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Arn Terry. And just to give you a quick background on him, first of all, you'll notice he has an accent, and I always like that he's in the UK, and I always like the UK accent. It always feels like that just makes you sound a little bit smarter than the American accent. Not saying that UK is any smarter than Americans, but it always has that appearance for me at least. So it's we'll get to enjoy his accent, but a little bit about his background. So father of 3, been married for 13 years, and he's been a recruiter for most of his life. He actually was doing the recruiting business during the economic downturn in 2008, had to go through, and he'll give a lot more detail, had that kind of start to crash along with a lot of the other economies, had to pivot, ended up working, I think he said, at a Tesco or a gas station, and I did some of that, made a comeback, doing that, and then saw some of the similar signs to 2008 coming up with COVID, and has preemptively made some adjustments and shifts to make sure that what happened in 2008 didn't happen again. So if that much is an introduction, Arn, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, Devin. I'm not too sure about the accent being more smarter than you, sounding more smarter. I don't know about that one, but thank you very much. Yes, I am from Manchester, UK, and I'm currently in Manchester, UK, as we're speaking at the moment. And yeah, what a journey it's been. It's been very interesting. So as you said with that introduction, as mentioned, my story began, back in 2008. Obviously before that, but 2008 was the point where, like many of us, if we were of the age of working and we was affected financially due to the global economic crisis, the financial crash, the housing crash, whatever you want to call it, it was very tough and difficult. So Devin, as you mentioned, I was a recruiter at that time and still am. I'm an international headhunter now, but at the time I was working for a firm and a lot of my clients were in the financial segments, one of them being Bear Stearns, the investment bank, and they went bump overnight. So there was a bit of a build up to 2008. So 2005, I bought my first home with my fiance. 2006, we got married. So she's my wife and now my wife. 2000.
Your wife?
Yeah, still. 2007, we had our daughter. In fact, so I'm giving the wrong birthday. 2008, we had our daughter. So it was year upon year. We had growth in terms of our family building. From marriage, honeymoon, to buying a home. All what we're trying to aspire to or do, or most of us trying to do. But what I didn't know what was around the corner was, the financial crisis in 2008. But what basically happened, what that meant for me was...
Let me to jump in just for a second on that. So before we go to the crash, and we'll certainly get into that, but you, if I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were in the recruiting business, which means you help other businesses find good employees, yes. Right? So I think yes. You mentioned one of your clients was Bear Stearns, which certainly with 2008 would have had a big, a big downturn and whatnot. Everybody, or a lot of people saw what happened there. But at least for that initial period of time, I'm assuming before 2008 and started the crash, recruiting business was going well, everything was looking up, hence why you bought a house and hence why you did a few other things. So, you know, so as a business goes well, it's easy to, you know, be happy and enjoy things. As you saw things go down, how did that transition, or as you saw kind of that domino effect kind of take place? What was that? Because I think that's applicable, and we'll talk a little bit also about COVID today, but I think there's a lot of, or at least some parallels that can be drawn as far as businesses and seeing domino effect and things getting, or slowing down and shutting down or whatnot. Certainly a different motivation, but how was that going through that in 2008?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's the rat race, as we call it. So, you know, you get a big bonus. What do? You go on a holiday, or you buy nice shoes or a handbag. You know, you get a pay rise. So, you know, you buy a house or a bigger house. So I was going through the rat race, climbing the corporate ladder. So, yeah, it was very good. You know, we bought a house, we had a great honeymoon, got a new car. So it was all up and up and up. So you didn't expect it to all go bang straight away. But the unfortunate thing is, you know, once you start upskilling or upgrading your life, you're dependent on that money. You're dependent on that financial circumstances. And the challenge that I had is I'm in sales. So it wasn't like my basic salary was going up. Yes, it was going up, but you rely on your bonus, you rely on your commission. So my car payments, the mortgage, you know, the lifestyle was based on my commission, monthly commission that was coming through. So when, as you mentioned, you know, it had that domino effect, Bear Stearns went under. I was doing a lot of work for Pro Systems as well. Was a large consultancy, pretty much like PwC, Accenture kind of type of business. So I was doing a lot of work for that big consultancy as well. And the doors shut. I had great conversations with him, but the conversations wasn't monetary conversations. It was, you know, we're just going to have to close the doors for now and see what happens. So what that meant was I had contractors or interim high-level candidates out there that were making money, making me money, the firm money, and then their contract got stopped, which obviously meant my commission was slowly starting to stop month in, month out. You saw that happening. So what I did, and as you mentioned on the intro, I panicked like most people did. I was thinking, what the hell am I going to do? I've got this payment coming out, but I've got more going out than I've got going in. So I took a job at Tesco supermarket. But I wasn't working like at the checkout. It's a huge supermarket, so I was working in the stock room or storeroom on the clothing side. So like many, and it's not Crimea River story, because I know we've all been through this, or many of us have been through this, unfortunately, is, you know, in recruitment, you work long hours. I was in the office 7:30, 7:45. I was working till 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. But then on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was working at Tesco supermarket as well. So it was literally like Groundhog Day. It was constant every single day doing the same thing. And it was tough, you know, it was emotionally tough. It was embarrassed. I know, I felt embarrassed. I felt ashamed. I felt like I wasn't, you know, giving what I wanted to do to my family, because one, I wasn't seeing them. I was working constantly, and two, my pride and joy was the car that I bought me. You know, my Audi A4. So I sold that, bought a banger. So it was a very old car that I bought, and it was that bad. This car was that bad. The electrics failed on it. Had no indicators. The speedometer failed, so I couldn't even I couldn't even know how fast I was going. But I'm a bit of a car guy, so I knew if I kept at a certain revs, at a certain gear ratio, I knew how fast I was going that way. So it was extremely tough for, you know, a good 12-month period while I was, you know, trying to piece my life finances back together, and my wife was working full time as well, so we didn't really see each other that much. So obviously daycare was a big part of our firstborn's journey as well.
So if you did that, so one question I said, I guess I date myself as being a bit too young at this one. So I know of 2008, certainly I was actually in school during the time. So I probably all by sheer luck. So I timed it. I was in school, which is probably a good thing in the sense I had friends that were going out and graduating about that time, and it was not a good job market. I'm sure, as you knew as a recruiter, and nobody was hiring. But I timed it, so I graduated in about 2011. No, 11, 12. I'd have to look now. It's been long enough. But I was after that. But so when you saw that, as opposed to COVID, which is today, which is a pretty abrupt, it's kind of everything shut down. Was it that kind of an abrupt, or was it more of an incremental kind of slowly shut down, or how quick did it happen?
Exactly the same.
Was it?
Exactly the same. It was like, wow, this is what's the word? Oh, I can't think of the word when it's like it's happening all over again. It was like, wow. So my backstory is, as I climbed the corporate ladder, was chasing the corporate ladder. I don't do that anymore because I've moved away from working for someone and set up my own international headhunting firm, and did it for myself. So what I was doing in the background was I was learning about how I can make sure that if something like a financial crash happens again, I'll be ready for it in one way or another. So what happened to me, true story, come March, I had 5-6 candidates lined up to start a new role. So it's, as you said, it's got a knock-on effect. And then I had 2 clients one client had like 2-3 candidates due to start, and it basically just straight away stopped. We don't know what's going on. Unfortunately, we're going to have to, retract the offers for these candidates. So for one, my client doesn't get the hires that they need. For 2, I'm losing out tens of thousands of pounds. Just yeah. And then my candidates aren't getting the job, so they're potentially have handed in the notice, so it just gets sticky. And this was what was happening back in 2008. So I was like, I know what's happening.
So before we jump forward to today, which we'll still get there, but so you went through this, you saw the downturn basically in 2008. Recruiting dries up along with a lot of the other job markets, or it takes a much more downturn, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you go through working with Tesco, your wife is working crazy hours, you're working crazy hours, trying to keep ahead or keep the bills paid, get yourself a beater car, so to speak, with electrical issues. How did you kind of come back out of that? Because I think that there's an overlay with what people are going through today, but how did you kind of, okay, I'm going to get, first of all, there's always a survival mode. We need to make sure we at least cover our bills, but then we've got to then rebuild and come back out and, hopefully stronger, at least, build back up. So how was that, or how did that go for you?
It was tough. There's no easy way around it. It was just riding the wave of time, because I knew that it was going to get better. So in the interim, what I was doing is I was working the part-time job to try and top up the lost revenue by way of commission that I was doing. And then I was contacting different companies rather than the consultancies, because my background back then was more of the consultancies, more of the financial services. I had to try and get in contact with, over here, more government side, or councils who were still kind of doing projects. So they still had budget that they had to spend, one way or another, because I'm sure it's the same over in the US as well. Once a government gets a grant or gets a budget, they have to spend that, or they're not going to get the same amount next year. So I had to think a bit differently and change my model of clients that I was working with, and I went and looked for the councils, the public sector type of businesses instead, and started trying to do business with them, and started doing business with them as well. But I could speak to you for weeks about this. It's just condensing it. So that's basically what I did, as well as doing my part-time work. So I was working constantly. I don't want to think about the hours that I was doing, but it wasn't a nice amount of hours that I was doing to get through. So that's what I basically did. I just rolled the wave of time, knowing that it was going to get better. But through this period, it was tough. So I just had to dig deep, stop moaning to myself, stop feeling sorry for myself, because there was a lot of self-pity. There was a lot of, would have, could have, should have, or X, Y, and Z, or why has this happened to me? Like what you go through. But then it was like, shut up, you've got a family, you need to get this done. So Like I said, my wife was working full time. We had our daughter in daycare, and then I would see the family as and when, and we'll just make the best time we had when we did see each other. So that's what I was literally just doing for good part of a year. So it wasn't something I was done over a couple of weeks or a couple of months. It was done over a year to build back. So everything that me and my wife was earning was just putting it back into the pot, putting back into the family pot, putting back into the family pot. Luckily for me, a lot of the clients then started to come back, and then I started to do well again, and then promotion, because as I said, I was climbing the corporate ladder as well. So I got promoted in the business, and my salary went up as well, which was a huge help. And then I got back into the motion of bringing money in for the family.
So did you go back? So after you weathered the storm of 2008 and the downturn and whatnot, did that for a few years, got back on your feet. Did you go back into recruiting? Did you say, hey, now this industry is coming back, or did you go to a different industry, or what was that transition?
Stayed. I'm still in recruitment now. Stayed in recruitment, so I was still working for the firm. It's not like now, because now was really bad where people furloughed. It was literally, you work the hours that you have to work. So we were still in the office, we're still making the cold calls, we're still sending out the emails, we're still prospecting, we're still building relationships. So it was constant. It wasn't a, oh, this is not going well, so we're going to jump and go into something else. It was, no, you weather it, you keep working, you hustle, you grind, you stay focused, you stay motivated, and you keep doing it. So I stayed working for that company, and I continued working for that company. It wasn't until obviously years down the line, that's when I set up my own headhunting recruitment firm. But during that time of the climate, 2007, 2008, when it was very interesting, I worked and I just weathered the storm, and I got better. And it's one of those things where it's not nice when you go through it, but once you've been through it, it makes you better and stronger as a person, as a business, as a consultant, or whatever profession you're in.
So then you weathered the storm. And then you came back. So you said, okay, we basically, while things slowed down, while it wasn't as good, while some of the clients ticked off, you continued to do the recruiting, and then supplemented your income with the other company, other work that you were doing with Tesco, and your wife was doing with others. Yeah. So then now I assume that you stayed with there. Did you fast forward up to COVID? Did you stay?
Yeah, fast forward. So what basically happened, again, because it is a long story short, was I was thinking, okay, what else can I be doing to make myself successful? So like you, and you've obviously built up 7-figure businesses, you're very entrepreneurial, and I was thinking to myself, what can I do? What can I do? How can I build that? For me, it wasn't even a thinking about 6-figure business. How can I build a 6-figure business? Sorry. So I failed, then I failed. Then I failed again, then I failed again, and I failed some more. But at this point, I was still climbing a corporate journey. So I was still, I still had my cushion, because, as time went by, my salary went up, my status went up. I wasn't just a recruiter. I was, a manager, a senior manager, had my own P&L, my profit and loss. So some of the hunger went. Which was sort of a bit of a shame. When your back's against the wall, you do stuff a lot more. But some of the hunger went. So I was trying a few things, from MLM, multi-level marketing, to selling products, to selling this, selling that, and I just kept failing. And one thing that I always talk about is, failing for me, I believe it's a positive thing, and making mistakes is a positive thing, because if you're not making mistakes, you're not failing. For me, my belief is it means that you're not trying something new or learning something new. So I stumbled across social media and making money online, because I've never been a social media person at all. I was only on LinkedIn. The only reason why I was on LinkedIn is I was this, professional headhunter who was very corporate. So I didn't mix with the likes of Facebook or Instagram. They were just for people who were just time wasters. And I didn't understand that you use it not just as a consumer, but as a business. And people that use it as a business are making 7-8 figures just by using it the right way. So what I basically did was I educated myself. So it wasn't it was both. It was self-education, reading books, journals, YouTube, etc., etc. But then I went on to, obviously it's a thing of the past at the moment. But I went into multiple seminars. So I was like seminar crazy. I would, jump in the plane, fly down to London, go and meet people in seminar and meet like-minded people who are making, £100,000 in a weekend on social media, and then meet someone else, and then I joined the coaching. Not seminars, joined a coaching group. I was coached, and then like a mentoring group as well. So I've been coached and mentored and trained my way along the way. So then, while this was happening in the background, I said to myself, right, okay, because I didn't want to come across as a fraud, so I was taking my time in social media and I was helping people for free. Free advice, except, as we all do, we start off, and I wasn't going to launch my social media business until 2021 because I was going into property. Just before COVID as well, I had an offer accepted on a house that I was going to flip. But as soon as that happened, I stopped it. So I kind of had to pivot very quickly, stop my property business, and then push in my social media business instead. Because what hopefully people are following what I'm talking about, and I'm not talking too fast, is what basically happened when, we're in 2020 now, when my client said, we're not hiring any staff at the moment. Oh, those people that we wanted to hire, you need to put them on hold. It was a lot of money in fees that I lost overnight. So I was like, okay, how can I supplement that? Luckily enough, because I'd learned about social media in the background, but wasn't really doing much with it because, my international firm, headhunting firm was doing well. I wasn't doing much with it. I thought, right, okay, now is your time. So I started doing more about marketing, branding, so helping my clients and charging them a fee. So, okay, you're not going to, I can't charge you.
Or just a one quick question or follow up. So as you were doing that, so rehearsing through 2005 successful recruiter, 2008 comes along, turns down, make it through, go back to recruiting again, build up what would be a good or a profitable recruiting, clientele, book of business, that's going well again. But the lesson, if I understand it, and kind of what we talked about a little bit before, it kind of, you said fail, but you kept trying. You're just saying, hey, if I'm going to learn any lessons from 2008, if I'm going to do anything different, it's going to be with the idea that I'm not going to just simply or solely rely on the recruiting business or one given avenue of income, right? So that way, as COVID hits or as something else hits, I have other skills, I can have other avenues, and I can have a different source of income such that I have more diversity. I'm able to pivot, which is what it sounds like, kind of as you saw the signs of COVID coming again, that abrupt shutdown, then that's kind of where you shift to social media. Is that a fair statement?
Correct. Yeah, 100%. So what happened was when the recruitment business stopped, I started charging. I was doing it in the background, but I wasn't focused on it. But I pushed that up, pretty much 100-fold. So I started charging for consulting more in terms of the social media side, as a coach, as a mentor. And then I started another stream of income as well, which was affiliate marketing, as most people know, just selling other people's products. And then I found that I was actually quite good at that. So I started making, $200 a day, $300 a day, $400 a day. It just kept going and going and going. So I was doing that as well. And then what I did as another stream of income, I then created my own course on how to dominate social media. And then I started selling that course online, digital product across the world, and just promoting that. So it happened so quick because, like you've said, and you articulated a lot better than me, because of 2008, I saw the signs of what was going to happen. Now it was like a switch. As quick as that, I was like, right, okay, bang, this is what I'm going to do. I literally got my pen, my pad, and I was like, okay, coaching, mentoring, affiliate marketing, Right, what else can I get? Right, okay, stick with that for now. Right, okay, I've got more people I'm coaching. Right, okay, now I'm coaching people. People coming back to me asking me loads of questions. Right, okay, now you need to do your digital product, because that digital course that you're creating, you can just refer them back to that. If you want this digital course, I can give you more information. Sign up to that. It's going to cost you X amount of pounds. Right, okay, that's checked off the list. And then there's more stuff as well. So it was like YouTube. I need to create a YouTube channel. I need to get my presence up there. So I went from like 0 subscribers to just over 1,000 subscribers. And I think it was, I can't remember, something like 6 weeks or something like that, maybe a bit more. I think I've tell like it was more longer than that. But that was for me understanding how to compound and get in contact with people through social media and say, hey, I've just created my YouTube channel, and tagging them in and saying, please, can you watch this? If you do like the content and you do like what you hear, please subscribe. By the way, can you do me a favor? Can you tag in another 5 more people, and can you ask them to do the same thing? So I compounded that to build my YouTube channel. I did that across LinkedIn. I'm fortunate enough to have over 10,000 followers on LinkedIn. So that was part of how I got my subscribers on YouTube quite quickly.
No, that makes sounds like a great plan. So, well, as we start to wrap towards the end of the the podcast, unfortunately, there's never enough time to hit everything.
No, there isn't.
But so next, so now as we're somewhat coming in, and depending on where you live, it seems to be different for almost every country and every state and every place you are. But people are kind of coming back to work or starting to open back up the economy. Some places are better than others. So what is the kind of, I know it's a crystal ball and especially hard, but next 6 to 12 months, kind of where do you see things going and how do you see things working out?
It's going to be extremely well. The reason why it's going to work, but again, it depends what sector you're in as well. Because I'm in the ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, so mine's very IT focused. And we're obviously doing this on Zoom. So if anyone's in the IT space, there's so much money that's been invested in technology, and I want amount of money that's been invested in technology, especially Zoom, Google Hangouts, Facebook, Instagram. Most people now are communicating by way of technology like this. So if you're in the technology sector, it's phenomenal for you as well. If you're anything to do with data, that comes hand in hand with social media. We're hanging out on social media a lot more as well. So what's happening is the algorithms at the moment can't cope with the amount of people now that are piled onto social media. So, artificial learning, data or data science, if people want to get into those parts, that's where it's heading at the moment. Same thing with manufacturing, because obviously we're going to be manufacturing more components and products for us to actually communicate with each other. So even the manufacturing of hardware is going to go up as well. Obviously, it's pushing more to cloud service or software as a service, stuff like that. But that's another thing. So it's going to get extremely busy at the moment. The only problem that we're going to have is if you're in a bricks and mortar business by way of you're a dentist or you're a physiotherapist and it's very touchy-feely, or you're a technician, like a nail technician or a hairdresser, and that's where it's going to be tough, because you condense with the amount of people that you can now book in, you condense with the social distancing. So that's why I've been speaking to people, random people who sell eyelashes, used to do eyelashes, should I say, do eyelashes, hair and makeup. So I'm talking to them, create a digital product, and then show people how to do it and charge them for that product. Like for example, you've got a podcast, but say if 90% of yours were people coming on your show and meeting you at your studio, and due to social distancing, my advice would have been, right, okay, then, well, one way is obviously you go onto Zoom, you go onto Hangouts, which is obvious, which a lot of people have been doing. But not only that, if you want to 2x your business or 3x your business, then you teach people how to become a podcaster. I'm looking at you now, you look like you've got some, it's a very expensive setup there. So I'll be saying, okay, then I will show you how to set up your blog, how to do a YouTube channel, and how to link your products that you're using as an Amazon affiliate. So you're talking to people and saying, this is how you become a podcaster. You charge them, I don't know, $20, $30 to do it, but you make more money by saying, this is the equipment that I bought. So anytime they click on your Amazon link, it takes them to the Amazon store, and you get paid a percentage per person that buys that product. But it doesn't just have to be the mic or the setup or the laptop. It can be anything. It could be a fridge freezer. It could be a boomerang for anything, as long as it's on Amazon. So I'm showing people and teaching people that.
So I'm going to jump in just because we're starting to get close to the end of time. So I think there are plenty more things that we could talk through, but I always have two questions I want to make sure I hit on before the end of each podcast. And why don't we jump to those now? So the first question I'll ask is, what was your worst business decision?
Worst business decision was, I wouldn't even say worst. My worst decision was working for someone for too long. That was my worst decision. And then again, looking at your profile and what you've done, and you set up multiple companies as well. It's like would have, could have, should have, but it's like shut up and you're doing it now. So just do it. So that's my thing. If anyone's listening to this and they say, "Oh, my situation, I hate my boss," not hate my boss, but your boss, you was doing everything for your boss, making your boss look better than what he or she is. If you're in that situation and you've got a better product service and you can do better offering, do it yourself, create your own company and learn by your mistakes. So that's my worst decision, not doing my own business earlier on.
No, all right, no, and I'd say the interesting is as many podcasts as I've done and get different guests come on. That's one of the top answers is how often people wish that they would have should have could have kind of done this earlier, because once they make the leap, once they do it, they're oftentimes it's such a much more gratifying and enjoyable life. And almost like I said, it's not that you even hate your boss or hate your job, but there's just a difference between doing what you love and your passion and what you can control and build versus what others can do. So I think that's a great one. So, okay, now we're going to jump to the second question I always ask, which is, so if you're talking to someone that's just getting started out in a startup or small business, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
Coaching. Find a coach or find a mentor. It's as simple as that. Don't do it alone. Find a coach, find a mentor. I'm not talking about, your brother or your mum or your dad who has a business. Find someone who has been successful in that type of business. For example, yourself, law practicing. So if I was to set up a business in law, I would come to you. I'll come and speak to you. If I want to, set up, get my business to 7 figures, I would speak to you because you've been there, you've done that. So it's find someone who can, mentor you, who has done it, not someone who will just be like, "Oh yeah, you should do this." Well, okay, well, have you succeeded? Yeah. And it's just, and once you've got to that level, you can fast track that person. You can show the people the mistakes that you've made and how you've come up with a solution to get past those mistakes. So it would just literally be mentor or a coach or both, and just don't take it too serious in terms of you're going to make mistakes along the way. You just need to laugh at yourself. You need to try and have some fun with it. Yes, it's going to be frustrating, but don't take yourself too serious because you're going to make mistakes.
All right. No, I think that's a great piece of advice. I think mentors a lot of times can help you to get things going, avoid some of the mistakes that people often make, get things going. And a lot of times, if nothing else, being an entrepreneur or doing a startup can oftentimes be a lonely journey in the sense that, a lot of times you're on your own, you feel like you're a failure, you feel like you're a success, you don't have a lot of people to talk to about it. And so a mentor can often, even if nothing else, lend that listening ear and support you and give you guidance through it. So thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun to have you on. If people want to, whether it's use your social media services, if they want to hire you as a recruiter or anything in between, what's the best way to reach out or connect with you?
Well, what I'm doing at the moment, I'm doing a free 30-minute coaching call. So a free 30-minute coaching call to do with social media. So if you want to learn how to dominate social media, just get me on Instagram, which would be the best thing I would say, because it's hot at the moment. So if you just type in Freetown Mindset, so that's Freetown Mindset, or just type in Arn Terry on Instagram. That'll be the easiest way to get me, or you can get me on LinkedIn, just type in the name Arn Terry. My purpose isn't to just say sign up to the course. It's really to have that conversation with someone and see if if I can help them. I just want do my best to help as many people as possible. So yeah, find me on Instagram. We can take it from there. But literally, I'm on all the platforms, which is crazy, and I'm loving it at the moment.
All right. Well, sounds like great. I would certainly encourage people to reach out to you, use your services, connect up with you, find out more about the free 30-day or the free 30-minute session and consultation and everything else in between. Well, thank you again for coming on. It's been fun to hear your story, and it's been fun to hear how you've gone through now 2 different downturns, how you learned your lesson from the first one, and how you're being successful through the second one. So best of luck on the next leg of your journey. For those of you that are wanting to have a journey to tell, want to come on the podcast and tell your story, feel free to go to inventivejourneyguest.com and you can apply to be on the show. And certainly if you're a listener, make sure to click subscribe so you can hear this episode and all the new upcoming episodes. And lastly, if you ever need any help with patents or trademarks, feel free to reach out to us at Miller IP Law. Thanks again, Arn. Wish you the best and have a good one.
Thank you very much. Gratitude, appreciation, and thanks to everyone that's listening.